Welcome to our tranquil space, a place designed to help you find the deepest, most complete sleep. All your thoughts, all your worries just for now, let them rest outside the door. Now, find a truly comfortable position. Slowly feel each part of your body letting go and gently sinking deeper into the soft mattress. Relax your forehead, relax your shoulders, relax your mind. Tonight, we won't use philosophy to think. We'll use it to let go. You don't need to try to understand or remember anything at all. Simply listen. Allow this voice to wash over you like a gentle stream of water, softly soothing your mind. And finally, take a long, deep breath in, and as you exhale, breathe out ever so slowly. Let us drift into sleep together. And as your body settles in this quiet peace, let your mind begin a journey. A journey not into the brief madness, but a journey out of it alongside the great sage Seneca. In the stillness between each breath, we will walk the Stoic path, discovering what this ugly anger truly is, where it comes from, and how we can extinguish it not with force, but with reason. Tonight, we will build a fortress together, a safe, calm refuge right inside our own minds. Now let your body rest, and let the journey begin. Lucius Annaeus Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher of Rome, began his examination of anger not with a gentle critique, but with a brutal diagnosis. To Seneca, anger was not merely a negative emotion, it was ira furor brevis est a brief madness. This was not a poetic metaphor. It was a clinical assessment. When he wrote his masterpiece on anger de ira, he was crafting a therapeutic manual and emergency intervention for this temporary insanity, which he believed to be the most toxic of all human passions. He argued that while emotions such as sorrow or fear may cause us to shrink inward, anger is unique in that it acts outwardly. It has a single, unmistakable goal: revenge. It longs to cause harm. Anger, by his definition, is the desire to repay pain with pain. It is this desire, once sanctioned by reason, that opens the door for madness to enter. Seneca drew a sharp distinction between the initial physiological jolt, what we might call a startle or a flush of heat, and anger itself. He acknowledged that the first twitch, the primus motus, is inevitable, beyond the reach of reason. If someone slaps you unexpectedly, you will flinch. If someone shouts in your face, your heart will race. Seneca said, "That is not anger. That is the trembling of the nervous system." True madness begins in the next moment, the second stage, when reason, the divine logos that should distinguish man from beast, looks upon that shock and consents to it. Reason says, yes, this is an offense. A harm has been done, and harm must be returned. That moment of conscious assent, that approval, is when we willingly surrender our control to insanity. We choose it, and once chosen, madness takes command. This is a radical analysis. It strips us of our most common excuse, "I couldn't control myself." Seneca replies coldly, "You not only could have controlled it, you had to choose it for it to exist." The context of this analysis is crucial. Historically, Seneca was not a philosopher of the study alone. He was one of the most powerful men in Rome, a senator, an orator, and most importantly, the advisor and tutor to the young Emperor Nero. He wrote De Ira while trying to guide and restrain an absolute ruler. Seneca was not writing about anger in the abstract. He saw it daily in the palace, where a single imperial tantrum could mean an execution, a war, or the ruin of an entire family. He was trying to disarm the most dangerous weapon in Nero's arsenal, his temper. He would later witness this brief madness turn into permanent insanity, when Nero eventually ordered Seneca himself to take his own life in 65 AD. But there is a lesser-known, deeply personal detail that may explain Seneca's near-obsessive focus on inner control. From his letters, we know that he was chronically ill. He suffered from what he called suspira, a severe respiratory disease that modern historians believe was acute asthma. He described these attacks with terrifying precision, calling them rehearsals for death, the sensation of suffocating as one's own body betrays itself. When a man spends his life struggling to control even his own breath, an act of the body that is not voluntary, it becomes clear why he would be so determined to control absolutely what is within his power, his judgments, his mind. If his body could collapse into chaos at any moment, then his mind had to be an unassailable fortress. He would not allow a voluntary madness anger to invade him when he had fought so hard against an involuntary chaos, his illness. His hatred of anger was therefore deeply personal. It represented chaos, loss of control, and surrender of reason. Everything his daily battle for survival had taught him to despise. So when Seneca said that anger is madness, he was not only speaking to Nero, he was speaking to himself. He was speaking to us. He was arguing that the moment we allow rage to take command, we step into a state of self-destruction, a dehumanized condition. We become a lesser version of ourselves, ruled by an animal desire to inflict harm. This madness, he warned, is never the solution. It is always the problem. It is not strength. It is ultimate weakness. It does not protect us. It exposes us to our own worst mistakes. This brief madness that Seneca diagnoses is not merely an internal state. It has an external, physical manifestation. Seneca was a keen observer, and in De Ira, he dedicates significant effort to painting a portrait of the angry man, and it is a deeply unflattering one. He argues that anger is, quite simply, ugly. It is the most hideous of all passions because it deforms the human visage, twisting the human look into something animalistic and terrifying. While other emotions might be hidden, anger, he insists, cannot. It bursts forth, stamping its grotesque signature onto the body. He describes the physical symptoms with the precision of a physician. The eyes blaze and flash, oculi ardent. The face becomes flushed with blood rushing from the heart. The lips tremble. The teeth are ground together. The hair stands on end, and the voice becomes sharp and strained. The entire body becomes rigid. The steps are hurried and forceful, as if the madness within is propelling the physical form forward. Seneca essentially asks his reader to become an aesthetic judge. He invites us to look at an angry person, not with fear, but with critical disgust. Is this the state you wish to inhabit? This contorted, red-faced creature, sputtering and shaking, barely recognizable as human. He contrasts this with the ideal face of the philosopher, calm, placid, open, and serene. The angry face is a mask of chaos, a direct reflection of the storm raging within the animus, the mind. This ugliness is not just skin deep. It is the soul's sickness made visible. The mental deformity is the true source. Seneca describes the angry mind as swollen, agitated, and sick. It is a mind that has lost its principatus, its royal command, its inherent right to rule the self. This connects back to his central thesis from section 1. The moment reason approves the desire for revenge, it abdicates its throne and becomes a slave to the very madness it has just endorsed. The ugliness we see on the outside is the visual evidence of this internal coup d'etat. The king reason has been overthrown, and the tyrant anger now sits on the throne, its distorted face visible for all to see. The historical context for this focus on the look of anger is chilling. A mainstream historical fact is that Seneca lived through and wrote about the reign of Caligula. Caligula was the emperor whose rage was legendary, whose personal motto was reportedly odorant, dum metuant, let them hate so long as they fear. Ancient sources describe Caligula as being acutely aware of his own terrifying and odious facial expressions, even practicing them in a mirror. Seneca, who was a senator during this time, would have seen firsthand how the brief madness of an emperor, visibly stamped on his face, could translate into immediate, real-world horror. He saw the ugly anger of the most powerful man in the world and understood it was not just a personal failing, but a threat to civilization. But here is a more obscure detail from Seneca's text that reveals the depth of his analysis. He doesn't just say anger makes us look like beasts. He argues it makes us worse than beasts. He observes that animals, like a lion or a boar, might have a fierce appearance, but this is their nature. A human, however, must abandon their nature reason to achieve this look. Furthermore, he points out that the anger of an animal is swift, direct, and serves a purpose: hunger, defense. It does not hold a grudge. A human, however, will nurse a grievance, feed it, and let that ugliness fester. The distorted face of the angry man is not just a momentary flash, like a lion's roar. It can become a permanent feature, a chronic state of being, as the mind inside remains perpetually at war. This chosen, cultivated ugliness is a uniquely human perversion. Seneca's argument is devastatingly effective. He takes anger out of the realm of righteous power and reframes it as a voluntary disfigurement. It is a choice to become ugly, both inside and out. It is the deliberate defilement of the very faculties reason, calm, and humanity that make us human. He forces the reader, and perhaps the listener drifting off to sleep, to consider a simple, profound question. Why would you ever choose to be so ugly? From the external deformity, the ugly anger, as we called it in our title that Seneca describes in section 2, the analysis must now move inward, to the harm that this passion inflicts upon the soul. For Seneca, the physical ugliness is merely a symptom. The true disease is the internal self-destruction. His core thesis is devastatingly simple: anger always, without exception, harms the person feeling it far more than it ever harms the object of their wrath. It is a weapon designed to backfire. He uses powerful imagery to make this point. Anger, he says, is like a badly thrown spear that, instead of hitting its target, rips the thrower's own arm from its socket. It is like a building collapsing, crushing the very ground it stands on. It is a poison one drinks, Seneca would argue, hoping the other person will die. This self-harm is not just metaphorical, it is literal. Seneca understood the psychosomatic connection long before modern medicine. He notes that anger burns up the body's vital energies, dries out the humors, and puts immense strain on the heart. It is a fever of the mind that quickly becomes a fever of the body. It brings on old age prematurely, sours the temperament, and, as we are exploring in this very session, it is the mortal enemy of sleep. The angry man, he observes, is perpetually restless. He cannot find peace. He is at war, not with an external foe, but with himself. The brief madness, a callback to Section 1, becomes a chronic state of agitation. This internal turmoil is far more painful, Seneca insists, than any slight or insult that could have possibly triggered it. The harm we think we received from another person is trivial compared to the profound, self-inflicted harm we accept the moment we choose to become angry. We have, in essence, invited a tyrant into our own minds, given it free rein, and then are shocked when it lays waste to the landscape. A mainstream historical fact that puts this in context is Seneca's own immense wealth. He was, at one point, one of the richest men in the Roman Empire, second only perhaps to the emperor himself. His wealth, however, could not insulate him from harm. In fact, it made him a target. He was constantly navigating political intrigue, accusations of hypocrisy, and the ever-present, lethal jealousy of others, including Emperor Nero. For Seneca, anger would have been a catastrophic strategic error. An angry Seneca is a predictable Seneca. An angry Seneca loses the precise, calculating calm necessary to survive in a den of vipers. His argument that anger harms the self first is therefore not just a moral precept. It is a vital survival strategy. He knew that if he allowed himself to be consumed by anger at his accusers or at the injustices he witnessed, he would be destroyed from within long before Nero's soldiers ever arrived at his door, which, as we know, they eventually did. He had to maintain his internal citadel, his tranquillitas animi tranquility of mind, as his only true defense. But here is a more obscure detail concerning this self-harm. Seneca delves into the etymology of the Latin word for anger, ira, and its connection to the word for ruin, ruina. While not a direct linguistic link for modern scholars, the philosophical resonance was clear to him. He also makes a fascinating, counterintuitive argument about why we indulge in it, even though it hurts us. He says we do it because the initial feeling of anger has a dark, twisted pleasure. It is a pleasure sharp and burning, like scratching a festering wound. It feels powerful. It feels righteous. This, he warns, is the bait. We are drawn in by this false sense of power, this ugly pleasure, and we fail to see the hook embedded within it. By the time the pleasure fades, and it always fades quickly, the poison is already in our system. We are left weakened, exhausted, and more vulnerable than before, having spent our vital energy on a fleeting, destructive high. The self-harm is complete. Anger, then, is a terrible bargain. We trade our peace, our reason, our health, and our humanity for the brief, illusory feeling of power that comes from a desire to inflict pain. Seneca's point is that the price is never, ever worth it. This progression, from madness, Section 1 to ugliness, Section 2 to profound self-harm, Section 3, leads to the central, most difficult question in Seneca's analysis: if anger is this toxic, why do we indulge in it? His answer is the bedrock of his entire psychological framework. Anger is a choice. It is not a reflex. It is not an irresistible tide that sweeps us away. It is a conscious, voluntary act of assent. This is, perhaps, the most empowering and most demanding argument he makes. Seneca, drawing from the deep well of Stoic psychology, breaks down the process into distinct stages. First, there is the impression, the visum, the external event. A person insults you, a driver cuts you off. This is just a raw, neutral event in the world. Second, there is the initial, involuntary shock, the primos modus we referenced in section 1. The heart jumps, the blood rushes to the face, the breath catches. Seneca is adamant that this is not anger. This is a pre-emotional, physical reaction. Even the wisest, calmest person will feel this jolt. It is simply the body reacting to stimuli. The choice, the voluntas, has not yet occurred. The madness has not begun. The critical event, the one that defines everything, is stage 3, the ascent. The mind, our reason, our logos, looks at the impression and the shock. It evaluates them. And in a fraction of a second, it passes a judgment. It says, yes, that was an insult. A harm has been done to me. This harm is unjust, and it demands a response. Revenge is required. The moment reason says yes to this proposition, the moment it assents to this judgment, that is the birth of anger. It is a cognitive decision. We are not victims of our anger. We are its authors. This is why anger is a choice. We have chosen to believe that we have been harmed, and we have chosen to believe that the appropriate response is retaliation. This may feel counterintuitive. Anger often feels like a reflex, like an explosion we can't control. But Seneca argues this is merely a poorly trained habit. We have assented to these judgments so quickly and so often that the choice has become automated, invisible. But the choice is still there, waiting to be reclaimed. A mainstream historical fact that illuminates this concept of assent is Seneca's deep immersion in the Roman legal system. He was a magistrate, a senator, and a frequent advocate in court. The entire Roman legal tradition, particularly the distinction between dolus malicious intent and culpa negligence, rests on the mind's ability to make a conscious, willful choice. An act was only a true crime if intent was present. Seneca essentially applies this courtroom logic to the mind. He asks us to be the chief magistrate of our own souls. When an impression, the prosecution, presents its case, you have been grievously harmed. Does our reason, the judge, simply rubber stamp the verdict and order the execution anger? Or does it pause? Does it cross-examine? Does it ask, was that really an insult? Or just a mistake? Was harm truly intended? And even if it was, is anger the wisest sentence? His philosophy is a call for judicial deliberation in the mind. He wants us to slow down the trial and challenge the prosecution's narrative before we pass judgment and unleash the brief madness. But here is a more obscure detail that deepens this. Seneca observes that anger is unique among the passions because it is inherently performative. It wants to be seen. Sadness may seek to hide. Fear may freeze us. But anger, once assented to, demands an audience. It needs to look ugly, a callback to section 2 to signal its grievance. This performative aspect is the choice. We are choosing a role. We are casting ourselves as the wronged party in a drama and are now acting out the part of the angry man. This is not a reflex. It is a theatrical, albeit destructive, decision. By choosing to be angry, we are choosing to put on this terrible mask, hoping it will frighten the world into giving us what we want, the acknowledgement of our harm. Seneca asks us to see this not as a display of power, but as a pathetic, voluntary surrender of our true selves. If anger is indeed a choice, as Section 4 established, a conscious assent to a judgment, then the next logical step in Seneca's therapy is to dismantle the judgment itself. What is this faulty judgment that we so willingly approve? Seneca argues that it is rooted in a single, fundamental error: false optimism. We become angry, not because the world is terrible, but because we naively, arrogantly, and relentlessly expect it to be perfect. Anger, in this analysis, is the violent, childish tantrum of a soul whose unrealistic expectations have just collided with reality. We walk through life, Seneca observes, under the illusion that things should go our way. We expect our journey to be smooth, our colleagues to be competent, our friends to be loyal, and strangers to be polite. We have an unwritten, unconscious script in our heads for how the day ought to proceed. Anger is the shock and outrage we feel when another character, a slow servant, a rude official, a clumsy friend fails to read their lines. We are not reacting to the event itself. We are reacting to the breach of contract, the violation of our personal, unnegotiated script for the universe. This is a profound reframing. It moves the source of anger from the external, the person who wronged us, to the internal, our own flawed, optimistic expectations, the self-harm. A callback to Section 3 begins here, not with the insult, but with the fragile, hopeful state we cultivated beforehand. We set ourselves up, like a house of cards, ready to be toppled by the slightest breeze of inconvenience. The mainstream historical fact that contextualizes this is the Roman obsession with the goddess Fortuna, or fortune. For the average Roman, fortune was a capricious, external force that bestowed gifts and calamities at whim. The goal of life was often seen as winning her favor, or at least avoiding her wrath. The Stoics, and Seneca in particular, turned this idea on its head. They taught that the wise person does not hope for good fortune. They expect bad fortune. They train for it. The wise person understands that fortune's very nature is to be chaotic. She will sink your ships, ruin your political career, and take your health. Anger, in this context, is the cry of the amateur, the person who still foolishly believes fortune owes them smooth sailing. A true Stoic anticipates the storm. By expecting chaos, they rob the chaotic event of its emotional impact. The event itself may bring pain or loss, but it cannot trigger the madness of anger. Section 1, because the judgment, "this shouldn't be happening," has already been replaced with, "this is exactly the sort of thing that happens." But here is a more obscure and crucial detail in Seneca's argument. He argues that this false optimism is not just naive, it is a form of arrogantia, or arrogance. We are not just hopeful, we are entitled. When a servant spills a drink, the master's rage is not just about the spilled wine. It is about the fact that a lesser being has failed to perfectly execute the will of a superior one. Our anger at trivial daily inconveniences, a slow waiter, a noisy neighbor, reveals a hidden, solipsistic belief that the entire universe ought to revolve around our comfort and convenience. It is the arrogance of an emperor who believes the world is his stage. Seneca, writing for a Roman elite steeped in a culture of absolute household power, was striking at the very heart of their self-conception. He was telling them that their righteous anger was not a sign of their power and high standards, but a symptom of their childish, arrogant, and fragile ego. The anger wasn't ugly, Section 2, just because of how it looked. but because of the arrogant, spoiled child it revealed within the grown man. Therefore, the very first act of prevention, the first dose of Seneca's medicine, is humility. It is the practice of actively dismantling this false optimism and replacing it with a sober, realistic acceptance of the world. This fragile, arrogant optimism we examined in Section 5, this naive expectation that the world must cater to us, is the dry tinder of the mind. Now, Seneca identifies the spark that ignites it. That spark is the feeling of being injured. The Latin word is inuria, and it is the single most important concept for understanding the trigger of anger. Inuria does not just mean physical injury. It means a slight, an affront, an insult, a violation of one's dignity or rights. It is the core judgment that our reason assents to, as we explored in Section 4. The moment our false expectations are violated, our mind instantly forms a proposition: I have been wronged, and inuria has occurred. This judgment is the heart of the matter. Without this judgment, there is no anger. There might be pain, there might be surprise, but there can be no brief madness, a callback to Section 1. Anger requires a narrative of victimhood. It requires a plaintiff, our ego, and a defendant, the offender, and a verdict of guilty. Seneca's therapy, therefore, is to attack the validity of this verdict. He asks us to become skeptical investigators of our own feelings of injury. Are we really harmed, or have we just been inconvenienced? Has our dignity actually been compromised? Or has our arrogant Section 5 just been pricked? He argues that 99% of the inuriae we suffer are light and trivial, magnified into monstrous grievances by our own ego. A servant is slow. A friend forgets a promise. A stranger jostles us. We interpret these not as neutral events of a chaotic world, but as deeply personal, malicious attacks. We are masters of self-inflation, and by inflating our own importance, we simultaneously inflate the power of others to harm us. We become, as Seneca describes, thin-skinned and perpetually raw, wincing at the slightest touch, all because we have chosen to believe we are constantly under assault. This is the tragic comedy of anger. We are so focused on the minor, external harm we think we've received that we ignore the massive, catastrophic self-harm. Section 3, we are actively inflicting upon ourselves by choosing to be angry. A mainstream historical fact that grounds this entire discussion is the legal and social weight of inuria in Roman society. For a Roman citizen, inuria was a formal legal category. It covered everything from physical assault to defamation, public insult, or even shadowing someone in a way that implied they were a criminal. One's public reputation and dignitas were paramount, and the law provided a mechanism to seek redress for slights that we might today dismiss as trivial. Seneca was writing to an audience, an elite, that was culturally and legally primed to be hypersensitive to inuria. Their honor was an external, fragile thing. Seneca's philosophy was a radical counter-proposal. He argued that true dignitas is internal. It is the invulnerable citadel of a mind ruled by reason. He taught that a wise person cannot be injured in this way, because they do not give their assent to the judgment that an external event can harm their inner core. But here is a more obscure and psychologically brilliant detail from Seneca's analysis. He observes how our anger changes based on the status of the person who delivers the inuria. He points out the absurdity we are often most enraged when someone we deem beneath us, a servant, a subordinate, someone dependent on us, commits the slight. If an equal or a superior does the same thing, spills a drink. For example, we may feel annoyance or fear, or we might even find a way to excuse it. But when it comes from a lesser, our rage is boundless. Why? Because the inuria is not the act itself. It is the perceived impertinence. It is a challenge to the hierarchy we hold in our heads. This, Seneca argues, is the ultimate proof that our anger is about our own arrogance, not about the harm. The injury is not the spilled wine. The injury is that a subordinate dared to be imperfect in our royal presence. This observation lays our motivations bare. Our anger is not a righteous defense of justice. It is the wounded pride of a petty tyrant. This deeply rooted sensitivity to inuria, the feeling of injury that we explored in Section 6, often comes with a powerful justification. We tell ourselves that our anger, while perhaps ugly, Section 2, or even self-harming, Section 3, is necessary. We believe it is a tool. We think it is the only way to get justice, to correct behavior, or to show that we are serious. This is the great myth of anger's utility, and Seneca, with the precision of a surgeon, dedicates himself to dismantling this myth, proving that anger is in fact useless, inutilis. It is not just a moral failing, it is a practical one. It simply does not work. The most common argument is that anger provides strength or motivation. It gives us the energy to act. Seneca flatly rejects this. He argues that this is a confusion of terms. What anger provides is not strength fortitudo, but a spastic, uncontrolled impetus. It is a convulsion, not a controlled display of power. He contrasts the brief madness, Section 1 of The Angry Man, with the calm, persistent, and immovable nature of true courage. Anger, he says, is like a terrible storm. It is violent, it is loud, and it is destructive. But it blows itself out quickly, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. True strength, true courage, is like a mountain, silent, steady, and endures all storms without being moved. An angry person is not strong. They are merely agitated. They are a blunt weapon, as he calls it, which shatters itself upon the first impact. The second great myth is that anger is necessary for correction. This is the argument of the parent, the teacher, or the leader who believes a display of rage is required to enforce discipline. Seneca finds this idea particularly absurd. He argues that reason can accomplish all the goals of correction far more effectively, without any of the toxic side effects. Reason can be firm. Reason can be clear. Reason can issue a just and measured punishment. Anger, by contrast, is a terrible teacher. It does not seek what is just. It seeks what it desires, revenge. It does not punish according to the crime, but according to its own inflamed state. A child or a subordinate corrected by an angry master does not learn virtue. They learn fear, resentment, and, worst of all, they learn that anger is the proper response to error. The madness simply becomes contagious. A mainstream historical fact that provides a powerful backdrop for this argument is the Roman military itself. The Roman legions that conquered the known world were not legendary because of their rage. They were legendary because of their disciplina. The ideal Roman soldier, the centurion, was not a berserker. He was a model of cold, professional calm under pressure. He was disciplined, rational, and strategic. Seneca, who would have observed these soldiers his entire life, is implicitly arguing that if the most effective fighting force in the world is built on calm discipline rather than chaotic rage. Why would we believe rage is a useful tool in our personal lives? An angry soldier breaks formation and gets himself and his comrades killed. A disciplined soldier holds the line and wins the war. Anger is a liability in a phalanx, and it is a liability in the human soul. But here is a more obscure detail from his text. Seneca uses a specific, brilliant metaphor he calls anger, a bad soldier. He describes it as an inexperienced recruit who is eager for a fight, but unskilled, and who rushes forward ahead of the line only to fall by his own impetuousness. It looks like courage for a split second, but it is actually a form of self-destructive cowardice, a perfect callback to Section 3. It confuses mere agitation with action. Reason, by contrast, is the veteran centurion. It waits for the right moment. It assesses the field. It acts with deliberate purpose, not spastic energy. This metaphor perfectly captures his entire point. Anger is all noise and no substance. It is a terrible, inefficient, and useless tool for any task that requires precision, justice, or sustainability. It is a choice, Section 4, that is not only morally wrong, but also strategically stupid. The idea that anger is useless, as we explored in Section 7, leads directly to an even more radical diagnosis. In a society, both Roman and modern, that often mistakes aggression for power. Seneca makes a profound counter-argument. Anger is weakness. It is not fortitudo strength. It is infirmitas sickness, infirmity. Every time we give in to anger, we are not displaying power. We are advertising our own fragility. This weakness manifests in several ways. First, as we established in Section 4, anger is a choice to surrender our highest faculty, reason. It is a voluntary abdication of self-control. A person who is constantly losing their temper is, by definition, a person who is not in command of themselves. They are a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the smallest external breeze. True strength, for Seneca, is constantia, steadfastness, consistency, and unshakable calm. It is the mountain that does not move, not the storm that rages uselessly against it. Second, anger is a public admission that you have been harmed. It is the direct result of assenting to the judgment of inuria. Section 6. The angry person is essentially shouting to the world, "You got to me. You breached my defenses. Your trivial insult has successfully overthrown my internal peace." A truly strong mind, the mind of the Stoic sapiens wise person, is in Seneca's view, invulnerable. It does not assent to the judgment that it can be harmed by external things like insults or bad luck. Therefore, it has no reason to be angry. Its calm is the sign of its impenetrable strength. Anger, conversely, is the sign of a mind that is porous, tender, and easily wounded. A mainstream historical fact is the Roman aristocratic ideal of gravitas. This was one of the most cherished Roman virtues. It meant weight, seriousness, dignity, and a profound self-control. A true Roman leader, the ideal paterfamilias or senator, was expected to possess gravitas. He was meant to be deliberate, firm, and emotionally sober. Public displays of uncontrolled passion, grief, excessive joy, and especially anger were seen as a loss of this gravitas. They were considered ugly, Section 2, in a social sense, often deemed childish, effeminate, or even barbaric. Seneca, by branding anger as weakness, was tapping directly into this powerful cultural ideal. He was telling his fellow aristocrats that their tantrums were not a sign of their noble power, but a betrayal of their Roman duty to be the rational, stable center of a chaotic world. But here is a more obscure and insightful detail from Seneca's text. He makes the psychological observation that anger is often most prevalent in those who feel weakest or most insecure. He observes that it is the sick, the old, and the frail who are most prone to irritability. He extends this to the mind, a mind that is soft or tender through luxury and idleness. A direct shot at the Roman elite is the quickest to anger. It is like a body that has never been exercised. It is weak, overly sensitive, and finds the slightest effort painful. A strong mind, like a strong body, has been trained. It has been exposed to hardship like the premeditatio malorum we will explore later, and has built resilience. The weak, spoiled mind, which has expected everything to be easy, Section 5, shatters at the first sign of trouble. Anger, therefore, is the tantrum of a spoiled child, regardless of the man's age. It is the ultimate confession of a weak, undisciplined, and fragile soul. This characterization of anger as a fundamental weakness, an infirmitas of the soul as established in Section 8, is crucial because it dismantles the illusion of control. And this leads to Seneca's next, and perhaps most urgent, warning: anger is an uncontrollable fire. It is not a tool that can be wielded, not a force that can be moderately applied. Its very nature is to escalate. The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is, I will get angry, but I will stay in control. I will only use a little bit. Seneca laughs at this. He says this is like saying, I will fall off a cliff, but I will stop halfway down. The moment we give assent a callback to Section 4, the moment we pass that rational judgment and choose anger, we are not picking up a tool. We are setting a fire at our own feet. We are opening a door to a brief madness. Section 1, that, by definition, does not obey its master. Seneca argues that other passions might have a governor. Sadness can be managed. Fear can be reasoned with, but anger is unique. It is ira, and its defining characteristic is furor, or fury. It is, by nature, an excess. It does not want a measured response. It demands total retaliation. It does not know how to stop itself. Its first act upon being born is to kill its parent reason. It seizes the citadel of the mind and immediately shuts the gates. It is, as Seneca observes, deaf to all counsel. You cannot reason with an angry man because the very faculty of reason has been overthrown. This is why it is uncontrollable. It is a closed-loop system of madness. The anger itself generates new inuria. Section 6, new injuries in its own imagination. It sees insults everywhere, twists neutral words into new offenses, and uses this new evidence to justify its own escalation. It feeds on itself. It is a blaze that creates its own wind. A mainstream historical fact that haunted the Roman imagination was the prescription. This was a period, most famously under Sulla and later the Second Triumvirate, of legalized mass murder. A man's name would be put on a public list, and he could be killed by anyone for a reward, his property seized. Seneca, a member of the senatorial class, grew up on the stories of these bloodbaths. The prescriptions were the ultimate example of political anger escalating beyond all control. It started as righteous anger against political enemies and quickly devolved into a chaotic, paranoid, and greedy slaughter that consumed thousands, including many who were innocent. Seneca understood that this public, societal furor was just the brief madness of a few powerful men, writ large upon the state. He knew from history that once you light that fire, it will burn more than you intended. But here is a more obscure and fascinating detail from De Ira. Seneca tells the story of a man named Gnaeus Piso, a Roman governor. Piso was known for his anger. One day, a soldier returned from leave without his comrade. Piso, immediately assuming the soldier had murdered his friend, sentenced him to death without investigation. As the soldier was about to be executed, the murdered comrade walked into the camp. The centurion in charge, seeing this, halted the execution and brought both men back to Piso. Piso, in a spectacular, logic-defying explosion of rage, became even angrier. He sentenced all 3 men to death, the first soldier, because his sentence was already passed, the centurion, for failing to carry out his orders, and the missing comrade, for being the cause of his friend's death. This story, which Seneca presents as true, is his ultimate parable for escalation. Anger, once unleashed, does not seek justice which was now available. It seeks itself. It will invent insane, labyrinthine justifications simply to keep burning. It is an uncontrollable fire that will consume reason, justice, and innocence alike, all to avoid the one thing it cannot bear being extinguished. Section 10. The catastrophic escalation of anger, that uncontrollable fire we witnessed in Section 9's parable of Piso, does more than just create chaos. It performs a terrible, reverse alchemy. It takes the gold of human reason and transmutes it into the lead of animal instinct. For Seneca, the ultimate tragedy of anger is this return to the bestial. It is the willful surrender of our single, defining characteristic. Throughout his work, Seneca is insistent. What separates man from animal is not our power, not our senses, not our strength. In all these, animals often surpass us. Our sole, divine inheritance is ratio, reason. This is our humanitas. It is the God within us. It is our only bulwark against the chaos of fortune, our only tool for virtue, and it is the primary target of anger. When anger seizes the mind, as we've seen, it overthrows reason, a callback to Section 4. It does not just ignore reason, it attacks it, silences it, and replaces it with impetus. We cease to be a thinking creature and become a reacting creature. We are no longer governed by the rational faculty that can weigh consequences, seek justice, and act with gravitas. We are governed by the basest, most primitive impulse, the desire to harm, to destroy, to inflict the pain we believe we have received the inuria from Section 6. This, for Seneca, is the ultimate ugliness, Section 2, and weakness, Section 8. It is a voluntary descent down the great chain of being. We abandon our citizenship in the republic of gods and men and join the pack. We become, in his words, wild beasts. A mainstream historical fact that frames this is the deep-seated Roman distinction between humanitas and veritas. Humanitas was the ideal of the civilized Roman. It meant education, culture, self-control, reason, and mercy. Veritas was the wildness of the untamed animal, the gladiator in the arena, and, in their prejudiced view, the barbarians they sought to conquer. A Roman's greatest source of pride was his humanitas. Seneca's argument is a devastating, internal critique. He is telling his fellow Romans that the moment they give in to anger, they are the barbarian. in that flash of brief madness. Section 1. The painted savage they despise, the wild beast in the arena, is no different from the supposedly civilized Roman master screaming at his slave. The rage itself is the feridas, and it is a more profound savagery because it is chosen. But this leads to a more obscure and brilliant detail in Seneca's analysis. He does not just say we become beasts. He, in a way, apologizes to the beasts. He argues that human anger is not a return to our animal nature, but a perversion of our human nature. It is something worse than bestial. His argument is subtle animals, he observes, are innocent. A lion kills because it is hungry. A snake bites because it is threatened. Their violence is clean, immediate, and serves their natura, their nature. They live entirely in that first shock, the primos motus we discussed in section 4. They are incapable of the one thing that is required for anger, the judgment of inuria. A lion does not believe a gazelle has insulted its dignity. A boar does not hold a grudge against the hunter. Humans, and humans alone, have the capacity to form the judgment. I have been wronged. We are the only creature in the universe that can take a neutral event, overlay it with a narrative of personal slight, section 6, and choose to unleash madness. Section 4. Therefore, our anger is not an animal instinct. It is a uniquely human corruption. It is the terrifying offspring of our divine reason mating with our lowest impulses. It is a monstrous birth. The wild animal acts with simple impulse. The angry human acts with malice aforethought, with a chosen desire for revenge. We are not just beasts. We are, in this state, something far more terrifying, a reasoning creature that has deliberately chosen to pervert its reason for the sole purpose of inflicting harm. Section 11. We have now seen that anger is a self-harming. Section 3. Useless, section 7. And weak, section 8, madness that perverts our human reason into something bestial. Section 10. But even after all this, a powerful objection remains, perhaps the most potent defense of this passion. What about justice? Is anger not the necessary fuel for fighting against wrongdoing? Is righteous anger not the engine of all great social change? Seneca anticipates this argument, and he attacks it with his full intellectual force. His answer is an unambiguous, resounding no. He argues that anger is not the ally of justice. It is its greatest enemy. The two, he insists, are fundamentally incompatible. Justice iustitia is, by its very nature, a rational, deliberate, and impartial act. It is the product of our highest faculty, reason, operating at its best. It seeks to find the truth of a situation, to weigh all factors with gravitas, and to assign what is correct and proportional. Anger, as we have exhaustively seen, is the exact opposite. It is an irrational, hasty, and deeply personal passion. It is the brief madness, section 1, that is deaf to all counsel. Section 9. It has no interest in the truth. It is only interested in confirming its own narrative of inuria. Section 6. It does not seek what is proportional. It seeks an excess of revenge. Justice is a scale. Anger is a wildfire. Seneca asks us to imagine the one figure who must embody justice, the judge. Now, he says, imagine that the judge is angry. Is this a judge you would trust? Is this a person who is capable of finding the truth? Of course not. An angry judge is a terrifying figure, a perversion of the entire concept. He is not a guardian of the law. He is just a man indulging his own ugly Section 2 passion. using the bench as a weapon. For Seneca, the claim of righteous anger is a dangerous contradiction in terms. If it is righteous, it must be rational and just, in which case it is not anger. If it is anger, it is passionate and retributive, in which case it is not righteous. The mainstream historical fact here is the very foundation of Roman law, which Seneca, as a lawyer, magistrate, and senator, a callback to Section 4, had mastered. The great innovation of Roman law, the ius Romanum, was its attempt to replace the cycle of passionate, personal blood feuds with a vast, systematic, and impersonal code of rational procedure. The entire project of Roman civilization was, in theory, to elevate rational law above primitive, angry retaliation. When Seneca argues against anger in the name of justice, he is not just making a philosophical point. He is defending the very soul of the Roman legal ideal against a return to the barbarism of Farida's Section 10. But this leads to a more obscure and crucial distinction in his text. Seneca is not arguing for passivity. He is not saying the wise person sits by and does nothing in the face of evil. This is where he introduces the subtle but vital difference between ultio revenge and punitio punishment. Ultio revenge is what anger wants. It is the emotional, retributive desire to make the offender suffer because they made us suffer. It is personal, hot, and satisfying to the ego. Punitio punishment, on the other hand, is what reason may demand. It is a calm, deliberate, and often reluctant action taken for a rational purpose to correct the offender, to protect the community, or to deter future wrongdoing. Seneca argues that the wise person is fully capable of carrying out punitio, even a severe one, but they will do so without any anger. They will act, as he puts it, like a surgeon. A surgeon cuts into a patient an act of harm, but does he do it out of anger? No, he does it calmly, precisely, and reluctantly for the sole purpose of healing. The wise leader or the just judge may have to punish, but they will do so with the cold precision of a doctor, not the hot madness of an angry man. This distinction solves the riddle. We can act against injustice. We can stop evil. But we must do it with our reason intact, not with our reason overthrown by a useless and destructive fire. We have spent 11 sections in a deep, often dark, analysis of anger's anatomy, its madness. Section 1, its ugliness. Section 2, its self-harming nature. Section 3, its origins in our chosen judgments. Section 4, and arrogant expectations. Section 5, its trigger. Section 6, its uselessness. Section 7, its weakness. Section 8, its escalatory fire. Section 9, its bestial nature. Section 10, and its corruption of justice. Section 11, we have, in essence, diagnosed the disease in meticulous detail. Now, at last, we turn from the diagnosis to the cure. If anger is a fire, how do we put it out? If it is a madness, how do we restore sanity? Seneca, as a practical physician of the soul, is ready with a prescription, and his single greatest, most immediate, and most effective remedy is delay. The Latin is dilatio. It means postponement, a putting off. If anger is a brief madness, a sudden, hot flash, then its greatest enemy is the cool passage of time. Seneca's advice is devastatingly simple. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. When you feel it, wait, do nothing, say nothing, make no decisions. do not act. Why is this simple act so powerful? Because it directly attacks the flawed mechanism of anger's birth, which we dissected in section 4. Recall the process. 1. The impression, the insult. 2. The shock, the primos modus. And 3. The assent, the rational judgment that I have been harmed. Anger is born in that third stage, in that fraction of a second when reason chooses to agree with the proposition of inuria, section 6. Delay, quite simply, inserts a wedge into that gap. It creates a space between the shock and the assent. The shock arrives, the heart pounds, the face flushes, and dilatio says, "Hold. Do not sign that document. Do not approve that verdict. Let us table this motion and review it when the court is calm." It gives reason a fighting chance to reclaim its throne from the madness. The uncontrollable fire, section 9, needs fuel, and its fuel is immediate assent. Delay starves it. A mainstream historical fact, though from an era just before Seneca's, perfectly illustrates this principle in action. It's the famous story of the first Roman emperor, Augustus, and his Stoic advisor, Athenodorus Canaanites. Augustus, the most powerful man in the world, was known to have a temper. Athenodorus, upon retiring from his post, gave the emperor one last piece of advice. He told Augustus that whenever he felt himself becoming angry, he should do one thing before speaking or acting. He should silently recite all 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. This story became legendary in the Roman world. It is the perfect, practical embodiment of dilatio. It is a small, structured ritual designed to do one thing: create a gap. It is a mental circuit breaker. Seneca, who was born under Augustus and who wrote his works on anger to another emperor, Nero, would have been deeply familiar with this classic piece of Stoic imperial advice. But here is a more obscure and profound detail that deepens the concept. The word dilatio, for a man like Seneca, was not just a vague waiting. It was a formal legal term, as we've noted. Section 4, Section 11. Seneca was a master of the Roman legal system. In a Roman court, a dilatio was a formal legal adjournment or postponement of a trial. A judge would grant a dilatio for a specific, rational purpose to allow passions to cool, to gather more evidence, to hear all sides, to let the truth emerge from the noise. When Seneca prescribes dilatio for anger, he is not just saying, "Wait a bit." He is using a precise legal metaphor. He is telling you to act as a just judge for your own mind. When the prosecutor, your initial shock, presents a damning case, you have been terribly wronged. We must sentence this person immediately. You, the judge, reason, must not be swayed. You must say. The court recognizes the passion in this chamber. However, to ensure a just verdict, this court is now in recess. We grant a dilatio. We will reconvene when we can examine the evidence calmly. This reframes the entire practice. Waiting feels passive. A dilatio is an active, rational, and authoritative act of a mind in control. It is reason asserting its power, not by fighting the fire, but by refusing to give it the fuel of a hasty, unjust verdict. If the dilatio, the delay we examined in section 12, is the emergency medicine for an anger attack already in progress, then Seneca's next prescription is the preventative, long-term vaccine. It is the single most powerful Stoic technique for building a mind that is not just resistant to anger, but immune to it. This technique is the premeditatio malorum, the premeditation, or rehearsal, of evils. This practice is the direct antidote to the root cause of anger we diagnosed back in Section 5, False Optimism. Recall that Seneca argues we become angry because we are arrogant, fragile, and naively expect the world to go our way. Anger is the shock of our expectations meeting reality. The premeditatio malorum attacks this weakness at its source. Instead of starting the day with hopeful optimism, the Stoic starts the day with a sober, rational pessimism. Seneca, along with other Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, would advise that upon waking, we should run a mental inventory of all the things that could go wrong. This is the ultimate rehearsal. He would have us practice, in our imaginations, the very injuriae slights. Section 6 that typically send us into a brief madness. Section 1. We should say to ourselves, today, I will meet a rude man. I will be cheated by a business partner. My servant will spill my wine. I will be caught in traffic. A friend will betray my confidence. We must also go further, rehearsing not just trivial slights, but genuine, catastrophic loss. Today, I may lose my job. I may lose my wealth. I may be struck by illness. The people I love may be taken from me. This sounds, to the modern ear, like a recipe for depression, a morbid, dark, and joyless way to live. But for Seneca, this was the secret to tranquillitas, to profound, unshakable peace. The purpose is not to dwell in misery. The purpose is to inoculate. The goal is to rehearse the emotional impact in a controlled, mental environment. By experiencing these events in our minds beforehand, we rob them of their one great weapon shock. When the rude man finally appears, the mind that has practiced this technique does not have that flash of outraged surprise. There is no injuria to assent to Section 4. The mind simply says, "Ah, yes, this is the event I practiced for. It is here, just as I expected. The judgment, this shouldn't be happening." The root of all anger is replaced with the calm acknowledgement, "This is happening, and I am prepared." A mainstream historical fact that beautifully captures this Roman instinct for balancing triumph with reality is the Roman triumph. When a general won a great victory, he was paraded through the streets of Rome in a chariot, revered as a near god for a day. However, according to ancient tradition, a slave in Auriga would stand behind him in that very chariot, holding a laurel crown over his head and repeatedly whispering in his ear, "Respice post to hominem te esse memento." Look behind you. Remember that you are just a man. This is the ultimate premeditatio, even at the absolute pinnacle of success and power. Roman custom enforced a reminder of mortality and humility, the perfect antidote to the arrogant Section 5 that breeds anger. But here is a more obscure and intimate detail of this practice. This is not just about bad things. Seneca, particularly in his letters, frames this as a mental rehearsal of loss for things we love. He argues that all the good things in our life, our health, our wealth, our homes, our children, our friends are not ours. They are on loan from fortune. We are their temporary custodians. The premeditatio malorum is the gentle daily practice of mentally giving them back. We should, he suggests, kiss our child goodnight and think to ourselves, "I may not wake to this child tomorrow." We hold our partner and reflect, "This person is on loan to me, and the loan may be recalled at any time." Again, this seems cold, but the psychological effect is the opposite of what one might expect. It does not make us love less. It makes us love more deeply and less selfishly. It infuses every moment with a profound sense of gratitude and presence, for we know it is fleeting. And, crucially for our topic, it prepares our soul for the inevitable day of loss. When that day comes, we will grieve. Seneca was not a monster. He knew grief was natural, but we will not be destroyed. We will not be angry at the universe, screaming, "This shouldn't have happened." We will be able to say, with a calm and heavy heart, "I am returning what was never mine. I am grateful for the time I had." This is the ultimate defense against the rage that comes from a broken, entitled heart. The premeditatio malorum we explored in section 13 is the mind's morning rehearsal, its inoculation against the shocks of fortune. But a vaccine alone is not enough. The soul, like the body, requires daily training to build strength. This is where Seneca's philosophy becomes a practical, daily regimen. He is not just a diagnostician, he is a personal trainer for the animus. His therapy is built on the Roman concept of disciplina, a word that means not just discipline, but also training, instruction, and culture. He argues that we must actively practice virtue and resilience in small, consistent ways. If anger is a weakness, section 8, born of a soft and fragile mind, then the cure is to deliberately harden that mind. We must, as he puts it, make ourselves tough. This is done through a series of exercises, none of them dramatic, but all of them cumulative. The first, and perhaps most famous, of these exercises is the practice of voluntary hardship. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in the empire, would periodically step away from his luxurious life. He would dress in the roughest clothes, eat the hard bread and simple food of the poor, and sleep on the floor. This was not just a mental rehearsal, the premeditatio, it was a physical one. The goal was twofold. First, it was to ask his body, "Is this so terrible?" and to hear it answer, "No, I can endure this." He was training his body to be as resilient as his mind. Second, it was a direct attack on the arrogant section 5 that luxury breeds. By proving to himself that he could be perfectly content, even happy, with nothing, he robbed wealth of its power over him. How could he be enraged by the inuria section 6 of a financial loss when he knew he could live happily on bread and water? How could he be angered by a clumsy servant spilling expensive wine when he had just spent a week drinking water from a simple cup? He was desensitizing his soul to the trivial slights of fortune. A mainstream historical fact that frames this is the ideal of the Roman paterfamilias, the head of the household. The paterfamilias was legally and socially responsible for the disciplina of his entire family, including his children, wife, and slaves. This was often expressed through firm, sometimes harsh, control. Seneca, in a radical move, turns this concept of disciplina inward. He argues that before you can dream of controlling a household, you must first establish absolute disciplina over your own mind. The man who screams at his slaves in a brief madness section 1 has failed his primary duty. He has shown he cannot even control himself. This daily internal training is therefore the prerequisite for all just and effective leadership, but the most intimate and, for our philosophy, for sleep sessions. The most relevant of his exercises is the one he saved for the very end of the day. This is the more obscure and beautiful detail, the evening exam, or self-review. Seneca writes in De Ira and expands in other letters that before he went to sleep, he would put his entire day on trial. He would lie in the dark, in the quiet, and act as the judge for his own soul, a callback to the legal metaphors of section 11 and 12. He would ask himself, in this calm, private courtroom, what fault did I cure today? What vice did I resist? What passion did I fight? In what way am I a better man? He would specifically review his day for anger. Did I speak too harshly to that person? Did I assent section 4 too quickly to that feeling of inuria? Was my punishment, section 11 of that subordinate, truly just and rational? Or was it the ugly section 2 face of anger? This was not an exercise in self-loathing. It was a calm, dispassionate review. He would praise himself for victories. Good, you held your tongue. You practiced dilatio. Section 12. And he would gently correct his errors. Tomorrow, when that same situation arises, remember to pause. This nightly audit, this disciplina of the soul, is the ultimate training. It sharpens the mind's ability to spot the ascent in real time. It is the slow, patient, daily work of transforming the soul from a chaotic, reactive mess into a strong, calm, and rational citadel. Section 15. We have now assembled a formidable toolkit of preventative medicine, the mental rehearsal of the premeditatio malorum, Section 13, and the rigorous disciplina of voluntary hardship and the nightly exam, Section 14. These are the long-term strategies for building a resilient, anger-proof mind. But Seneca, ever the practical therapist, has one more, very strange, and very immediate trick up his sleeve. It is an in-the-moment technique, a kind of psychological shock therapy. This is the mirror of anger. Seneca offers this advice, a curious and seldom discussed detail of his therapy. If you are in the grip of anger, find a mirror speculum and look at yourself. Just look. This advice is brilliant, and it works on multiple, profound levels. First, and most obviously, it is a direct, empirical confrontation with the very first argument he made that anger is ugly. Section 2. In that section, he asked us to imagine the contorted face of the angry man. Here, he demands we stop imagining and see it on ourselves. We are forced to witness, in real time, the brief madness, Section 1, as it deforms our own features, the blazing eyes, the clenched jaw, the flushed skin. It is one thing to feel angry, which can have that dark, burning pleasure, a callback to Section 3. It is another entirely to see the bestial, Section 10, mask it plasters onto our own face. This visual shock can be so jarring that it acts as an instant dilatio. Section 12, a pattern interrupt powerful enough to break the madness then and there. Second, it shatters the performative aspect of anger. Section 4, recall that anger wants an audience. It wants to signal its inuria. Section 6 to the world. It is a bad soldier. Section 7, making a lot of noise. The mirror provides an audience, but it is the wrong one. It is not an audience that will be cowed, frightened, or convinced of our righteousness. It is an objective, cold, and unflattering audience. It simply reflects the ugliness back at us, not the justice of our cause. This reflection invalidates the performance. The anger, seeing itself, feels not powerful, but ridiculous. It collapses under the weight of its own shame. A mainstream historical fact that adds power to this is the Roman cultural obsession with the imago, or imagines. In the homes of the Roman elite, the atrium was lined with wax death masks of their ancestors. These images represented the dignitas and gravitas, section 8 of their lineage. A Roman was raised to see these calm, noble, placid faces as the very image of virtue's virtue. For a Roman like Seneca, looking in a mirror and seeing a contorted, ugly, and barbaric Farida's, section 10 face was not just a personal embarrassment, it was a betrayal of his ancestors. It was the visual proof that he was failing to live up to the serene, rational ideal that his entire culture, represented by those wax masks, demanded of him. This mirror is the ultimate tool of the nightly exam, section 14, brought into the heat of the moment. It is the judge holding up a reflection of the defendant, and in that reflection, the guilt is undeniable. It is a strange, confronting, and deeply effective way to force the raging soul to see itself clearly, and in seeing, to be horrified back into sanity. Begin wind down. And so, we begin to see the shape of the citadel Seneca is building, a fortress of the mind. It is a place built not of stone, but of reason. Its foundation is the quiet acceptance of an imperfect world, a world not built to serve our expectations. Its walls are the daily, patient disciplina, the practice of voluntary hardship, the gentle nightly review of our soul. Its gatehouse is the dilatio, the wise, deliberate pause, the calm adjournment of a just court, and its high tower is the premeditatio malorum, the long view, the sober understanding that all we have, all we love, is on loan from fortune, a gift to be cherished, not a possession to be angrily guarded. The mirror he asks us to hold up is the final checkpoint, the last guard, reminding us of the ugly, chaotic stranger who tries to storm the gates. But now, the review is over. The day is done. The court is adjourned. The mind, after its gentle exam, is ready for its rest, ready for its peace. There is no longer a need to fight, no need to defend. The fire of anger finds no fuel here, only the cool, calm, deep stillness of a mind that has found its home in reason and in tranquility and in the citadel we have been building, with its high tower of premeditation, section 13, and its deep daily disciplina. Section 14 is a powerful defense, the dilatio. Section 12 is its emergency gate, the mirror. Section 15, its watchful guard. But all these are, in a sense, defensive maneuvers. They are designed to manage anger, to block it, to survive its assault. Now, we move to the final, most elegant, and most truly Stoic act, not to fight anger, but to dissolve it entirely. We do this by attacking its very heart, the single flawed piece of cognition from which it is born, changing the judgment. We established in section 4 that anger is not a reflex, it is a choice. It is our rational assent to a proposition, the proposition of inuria. Section 6. I have been harmed, and this harm is unjust. If the judgment is the cause of the anger, the cure is simple. Though not easy, do not make the judgment. Or, if the initial judgment is made in that first flash of shock, then we must train our reason to immediately revise it. This is the cognitive therapy of Seneca, the active, conscious reframing of reality. This is not about suppression. Suppression is just holding the uncontrollable fire, section 9, down with a lid, which only builds pressure. This is about extinguishing the fire by removing its fuel, the judgment. Seneca asks us to become masters of interpretation, to see the insult as a neutral, external event, and to actively choose a rational, benign judgment in place of the emotional, hostile one. He provides a practical script for our reason. When an event occurs, we must ask 1. Was it intended? Was this malice or error? A callback to the legal distinctions of Section 11? If a servant spills a drink, did he intend to ruin the carpet, or did his hand simply slip? If it is error, then anger is illogical. It is madness to rage against a simple accident. 2. Is it ignorance? Perhaps the person who insulted you is a fool. Perhaps they are, in a spiritual sense, a barbarian. Section 10. Acting from a place of ignorance, not malice. Seneca would argue that a doctor does not get angry at the symptoms of a disease. He seeks to cure it. A wise person does not get angry at the actions of an ignorant fool. They either pity them, ignore them, or calmly correct them. Anger is, once again, illogical. 3. Is it a joke? He even suggests that sometimes the best way to meet a perceived insult is to treat it as a jest, to laugh it off. This act of reframing instantly diffuses the inuria. The man who laughs cannot be harmed by the insult. This is an act of supreme internal control. It is the ultimate expression of the disciplina, Section 14, and the rational judge. Section 12 we have been cultivating. A mainstream historical fact that frames this is Seneca's own profession as a master of rhetoric. In Roman rhetorical training, a student was taught to argue in utramque partem, on either side of any question. A good orator had to be able to convincingly argue for a defendant's guilt, and then, in the next breath, for his innocence. This was not seen as hypocrisy. It was seen as supreme logical training. It taught the mind to separate facts from interpretation. Seneca, one of the greatest orators of his age, is essentially applying this rhetorical training to the soul. He is teaching us to be a better lawyer for our own peace of mind. When our inner prosecutor screams, "This is an outrageous inuria," our inner rhetorician must be trained to stand up and say, "Perhaps, but let us argue the other side. Let us see if we can construct a more rational and more peaceful interpretation." But this leads to a more obscure and strategically brilliant detail in his text. Seneca provides a detailed, almost if-then flowchart for how to reframe the judgment based on the status of the offender. If the offender is an inferior, a slave, a subordinate, the judgment of inuria is invalid because their opinion is worthless. It is, he argues, like being insulted by a piece of furniture or a barking dog. This sounds brutal to our ears, but it is a direct attack on the arrogant Section 5 that causes this specific type of anger. By deflating the significance of the insult, he dissolves its power to harm. If the offender is an equal, a friend, a fellow senator, the judgment of inuria must be weighed against their past friendship. Has this friend not done me more good in the past than this one harm? Is this one error enough to erase all our shared history? He asks us to dilute the single bad judgment with the memory of all the good ones. If the offender is a superior, the emperor, a magistrate, the judgment of inuria is not just wrong, it is suicidal. Anger here is the ultimate weakness. Section 8, because it is profoundly stupid. The correct judgment is not, "I have been insulted," but "I am in danger." This triggers not anger, but prudence, caution, and rational calculation. By breaking it down this way, Seneca shows that in no rational scenario Is anger the correct judgment? It is always a mistake. It is always a failure of interpretation. The truly wise person does not get angry, not because they are superhumanly suppressed, but because their rational, well-trained mind simply does not assent to the flawed judgments that give anger life. Section 17. If we have spent the last 16 sections in a project of demolition tearing down the ugly, Section 2, self-harming, Section 3, and bestial, Section 10 edifice of anger, we must now dedicate ourselves to the construction that follows. What does Seneca, having cleared the rubble of this brief madness, Section 1, wish to build in its place? The answer is not simply a void, not a cold, passionless emptiness. The active, positive, and crowning virtue that Seneca champions as the direct opposite of anger is clemency. The Latin is clementia. It means mercy, mildness, forbearance, or grace. If anger is the ira born of weakness, Section 8 and an inflated sense of inuria. Section 6. Clementia is the calm, rational virtue born of supreme strength and unshakable constantia, or steadfastness. Seneca's argument is that these two passions cannot coexist. The presence of one is the absolute exclusion of the other. Anger, as we have seen, is the knee-jerk, spastic reaction of a fragile soul that believes it has been harmed. Clemency, by contrast, is the deliberate, considered, and profound choice of a soul that knows it cannot be harmed by external events. It is the ultimate expression of the changed judgment we explored in Section 16. It is the mind that has not only reframed the insult, but has risen so far above it that it can look down upon the offender, not with the arrogance of rage, Section 5, but with the elevated perspective of rational pity or indifference. The truly powerful person, in Seneca's view, does not need to get angry. Anger is a useless, Section 7, and noisy tool for those who feel powerless. The truly strong, the wise person, the ideal king, proves their power not by unleashing the uncontrollable fire, Section 9 of retribution, but by calmly, magnanimously absorbing the offense and choosing to do no harm in return. Clemency is the ultimate victory of the internal citadel. It is the open-handed gesture of a ruler so secure in his power that he does not fear the petty insults of lesser men. A mainstream historical fact, and perhaps the most important context of Seneca's career, is that he did not just write about clemency as a vague ideal. He wrote the book on it. His treatise De Clementia on clemency was a formal, public mirror for princes, addressed directly to the young Emperor Nero upon his ascension to the throne in 54 AD. This was Seneca's manifesto for good governance. He was, as Nero's tutor and advisor, in the position of his life, he had the ear of the most powerful man in the world. De Ira had diagnosed the disease. De Clementia was the explicit prescription. He was trying to convince a teenager who held the power of life and death over millions that this virtue, clemency, was the supreme sign of true imperial power, far greater than the weakness of a tyrant's rage. True security, he argued, came from the love of the people, which only clemency could win, not from the fear that anger inspired. But here is a more obscure and psychologically critical distinction that lies at the heart of his argument. To our modern ears, clemency or mercy is synonymous with pity. For Seneca, they were moral opposites. This is one of the most misunderstood points of Stoicism. He, like other Stoics, argued that misericordia, or pity, was a vice, It was just another irrational passion, a sickness of the mind, egritudo animi, caused by contemplating another's misfortune. Pity, like anger, was an involuntary disturbance, a loss of reason, a form of weakness. The wise person, whose soul is in a state of perfect rational calm, does not feel this irrational emotional tug. Clementia, on the other hand, is not a feeling at all. It is a rational judgment. It is the calm, deliberate, and willed act of a mind in full, rational control. The wise person does not show mercy because they feel pity, which is a weakness. They show mercy because they judge it to be the most rational, humane, and often the most just course of action. It is the ultimate expression of the punitio rational punishment we explored in section 11, where the surgeon reason decides that the most healing cut is no cut at all. It is the highest act of humanitas, section 10, but it is a humanitas guided by the divine logos of reason, not by the muddy, chaotic emotions of the animal. This is the positive virtue he sought to build, a mercy born of strength, not a pity born of pain. We have now, in section 17, established the supreme virtue of clementia, or clemency, as the rational and powerful opposite of anger. We have built our internal citadel. But what happens when the anger we face is not our own? What is the correct Stoic response when we are confronted with the brief madness, section 1, of another person? This is the external test. Seneca is clear the most disastrous, illogical, and weak. Section 8 response is to meet anger with anger. To do so is to lose the war on two fronts. First, you have allowed another person's madness to ignite your own, proving you have no control over your ascent. Section 4. Second, you have simply escalated the situation, turning a spark into an uncontrollable fire. Section 9. As Seneca states, what is more foolish than to become angry yourself because you are angry at another's anger? It is the height of the absurd. The correct response, he argues, is the application of softness. The Latin is militia. He uses the analogy of a soft, yielding object versus a hard, brittle one. If you strike a solid rock against another, they both shatter. But a soft, pliable object like a bale of wool, a common Roman metaphor, absorbs the blow, unharmed, and diffuses the energy of the strike. The soft answer, the calm reply, the deliberate silence. This is the strategic, rational defense against an external attack. It is the practical application of clementia, or, at the very least, of tactical tranquillitas. This is not passivity. It is a highly active, strategic disengagement from the other's madness. You are refusing to join them in their bestial state, section 10. You are remaining human, rational, and in control, thereby highlighting their loss of it. A mainstream historical fact that framed this for Seneca was the constant, volatile reality of the Roman contio, a public assembly, and the Senate floor. Seneca, as a master orator and senator, would have been trained in how to manage the crowd. Roman history was full of instances where a statesman's ability to either ignite or calm the anger of a mob determined the fate of the republic or, in his time, the empire. A skilled speaker did not shout down an angry crowd. That was impossible. He would use strategic pauses, a form of public dilatio. Section 12. Humor, feigned agreement, or a sudden change of subject. He would yield to the crowd's initial force, only to redirect its energy. Seneca is, in essence, advising us to treat the angry individuals in our lives as our own personal kontio, a force to be managed with rational skill, not opposed with brute, emotional force. But here is a more obscure and psychologically astute detail from his writings. Seneca does not offer a one-size-fits-all, soft answer. He provides a nuanced, strategic guide to anger management for others. He observes that different types of anger must be met with different types of calm. If the anger is from a superior like Emperor Nero, he advises a form of sham humility, letting the rage wear itself out by offering no resistance, like a wave breaking on a soft shore. If the anger is from an equal a friend, he advises a calm adjournment dilatio, suggesting they speak later when minds are cooler. If the anger is noisy and boisterous, he advises simply ignoring it, as one would a child's tantrum. And most strategically of all, he even concedes that sometimes, to manage a person who only understands anger, the wise man might feign anger. This would be a cold performance, a rational, ugly. Section 2 mask put on for a specific, just purpose. Section 11, with no internal madness whatsoever. It is the surgeon's Section 11 final, risky tool. In all cases, the principle is the same. Your own reason must remain the just judge, Section 12. Calmly assessing the situation and choosing the most effective, rational tool to disarm the madness. Never, ever joining it. We have assembled a complete citadel of the mind. We have our diagnostic tools to identify the ugly Section 2 and weak Section 8 nature of anger. We have our emergency dilatio, Section 12, our long-term premeditatio, Section 13, our daily disciplina, Section 14, our rational clementia, Section 17, to replace the madness, and our strategic, calm methods for handling the anger of others, Section 18. We have, in essence, built a complete system for rational living. But Seneca has one final, vast, and sobering perspective to offer. It is the ultimate reframer, Section 16, the one that makes all our grievances seem impossibly small. This is the perspective of mortality. He argues, most famously in his essay De Brevitate Vitae, on the shortness of life, that our anger is a symptom of a profound, delusional misuse of our most precious and only true resource, tempus, time. We act, he says, as if we are going to live forever. We are frugal with our money, but prodigal with our time. The one thing in which it is a virtue to be greedy. Anger, in this context, is the most absurd, ugly, and profligate waste of this finite resource. It is the brief madness, Section 1, that consumes our precious non-renewable days. Think of it, we are so offended by a trivial slight, so consumed by an inuria, Section 6, that we are willing to spend hours, days, even years of our short, unguaranteed lives stewing in a self-harming, Section 3, toxic state. We are fighting over scraps of ego, while the bank vault of our life is being emptied. This is the memento mori. Remember you must die, which is the ultimate premeditatio malorum. By rehearsing our own finitude, we gain the divine perspective. It is the final, unanswerable argument against the arrogance, Section 5 of our anger. You are a dying man on a tiny rock, spinning through an infinite void. Is that servant's mistake really worth 1 second of your remaining time? A mainstream historical fact is the omnipresence of death in the Roman imagination. Far from a sanitized, hidden event, death was a public, central part of life. We mentioned the imagines, Section 15, the ancestor masks, which were a constant reminder of the lineage of the dead. Furthermore, Roman funerary art, sarcophagi, and public monuments were steeped in this awareness. This was not a morbid obsession. It was a cultural disciplina. Section 14. This ever-present "remember you must die" was not a threat. It was an exhortation to live. It was a call to vivere, to live with virtue, with gravitas. Section 8. And to not waste the brief flicker of consciousness on the bestial Section 10 and irrational passions. But here is a more obscure and profound detail from Seneca's thought. He argues that life is not actually short. Vita brevis is a misdiagnosis. The title, On the Shortness of Life, is ironic. His actual thesis is that life is long enough satis longa, if we know how to use it. We are not given a short life. We make it short. We make it short by giving it away to negotium busyness, mindless obligation, and empty pursuits. And the chiefest of these is anger. Anger is the busiest of all passions. It demands our full attention. It hijacks our thoughts. It drains our energy. The opposite of this is odium, not leisure in the sense of a vacation, but a philosophical, tranquil leisure, where the mind is free to contemplate truth, virtue, and itself. This is the only state in which we are truly living. Anger, therefore, is the act of committing suicide in small increments. Every hour spent in a rage is an hour of odium true life that you have murdered. When Seneca asks us to give up anger, he is not just offering us peace of mind. He is offering to give us our lives back. He is offering us the vast, open, tranquil expanse of odium in place of the cramped, ugly, and feverish prison cell of our own brief madness. We have come to the end of our journey, our shared meditation on this brief madness. Section 1. We have walked with Seneca through the dark, ugly, Section 2, corridors of anger, seen its self-harming, Section 3 nature, and understood it as a weak, Section 8, and useless, Section 7 fire. Section 9. We have seen it as a choice. Section 4. A flawed judgment. Section 16, born of arrogance. Section 5, and a false sense of inuria. Section 6. We have built a citadel of defense, the dilatio. Section 12, the premeditatio. Section 13, the daily disciplina. Section 14, and the high, rational virtue of clementia. Section 17. We have even learned to disarm the anger of others. Section 18, and have put our own small grievances into the vast, cosmic perspective of mortality. Section 19. Now, there is only one step left, the final liberation. This is the ultimate goal of Seneca's therapy. It is not just to manage anger, or even to prevent it. It is to arrive at a state of mind where anger is simply unthinkable. It is the complete and total dissolution of the passion, a state of profound, unshakable tranquillitas, anime tranquility of mind. This is achieved by zooming out, past our own short lives, to the perspective of natura, or nature itself. This is the mainstream historical fact of Stoicism's core. The Stoics believed the universe was not a random chaos, but a single, vast, living entity permeated by a divine, rational principle, the Logos. This Logos is fate, or the will of God. Everything that happens, everything from the falling of a leaf to the death of a friend, is a necessary, perfect, and rational part of this single, unfolding cosmic plan. To the wise person who fully internalizes this, anger becomes not just impractical or ugly, but metaphysically absurd. How can you be angry at an event when you know it is a necessary and therefore just part of a divine, rational order? To be angry at the rude man, section 13, is as insane as being angry at the rain for being wet or at the sun for setting. They are all just expressions of the logos. To assent, section 4, to anger is to, in your arrogance, declare that you, a tiny fragment, know better than the entire divine intelligence of the cosmos. It is the ultimate inuria not against you, but committed by you, against nature itself. This leads to the final, and most beautiful, obscure detail of Seneca's vision. He frequently describes this tranquillitas not as a fortress, but as a calm sea. He calls it the euthymia, or well-being of the soul. It is a state of unwavering calm. This is the perfect final metaphor for our sleep. The mind of the wise is not a fireproof citadel, always on guard, always fighting. It is a vast, deep, and placid ocean. The insults and misfortunes of life are like stones thrown onto its surface. They may cause a brief, superficial ripple, the primos modus, the involuntary shock of section 4, but they cannot possibly disturb the immense, quiet, and profound calm of the depths. The brief madness of anger is a shallow, churning, violent storm. The tranquillitas of the logos is the deep, silent, immovable ocean. This is the liberation. It is the final, changed judgment, section 16. It is the realization that you are not a separate, injured ego. Section 6, fighting against the world. You are the world. You are a part of the logos. Your task is not to rage against the current, but to accept it, to flow with it, to trust it, because the current is reason. The current is God, and in that acceptance, that amor fati, love of fate, the uncontrollable fire of anger has no oxygen. It is not defeated. It simply cannot exist. And so, the analysis is complete. The arguments are laid to rest, just as we are laying our bodies to rest. The mind, having been shown the path out of the fire, is now free to walk into the cool, quiet night of the logos. There is nothing left to fight, nothing to resist, nothing to prove. The brief madness is over. The ugly mask is removed. The weakness has been replaced by the quiet, immovable strength of the deep sea. The judgments have been revised. The expectations have been released. We are no longer the arrogant, fragile masters of a script that will never be followed. We are the calm, accepting observers, the willing participants in a story far grander than our own. The citadel has served its purpose. The disciplina is complete for the day. The exam is closed. Now, there is only the vast, peaceful, and rational silence of the tranquillitas, a silence that accepts all things and is disturbed by nothing. Let the mind float on that calm, deep ocean. Let the waves of breath be the only waves, rising and falling in perfect harmony with the universe. There is nothing to do but to be and to sleep. Sweet dreams.